Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Woolworth's podcast. Today's guest is Wendy Stewart. Hi, Wendy.
Hey, it's so great to be here with you today. Happy Sunday.
Yes, definitely. So, Wendy is an author, an actress, a host, a model, and a podcaster, and a speaker. So, welcome to my podcast.
And probably more things that I'm not even thinking of at this time. Oh my God, I did leave one out. MC. I do shows in clubs where I MC. And, you know, we've been very lucky. I live in New York, right? And things have opened up quite a bit here. So I've been able to get back and do theater and stage and host shows and things like that, which, you know, live audiences for someone like me are everything. So you can only imagine what I went through when they shut New York down March 12th of 2020.
Oh man, it was wild. When they shut us down here, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was happy because I didn't want to go to work. but other than that, like it was definitely it was an experience.
It's so crazy. I'm just curious. What's your life like in Kentucky now? And I'll tell you about New York.
In Kentucky, everything's opened back up, so it went back to normal. Like it's not anything.
Wow. So New York, let's see, our theaters have opened up. Broadway's going to open up. Yay! Yeah. And, the comedy clubs are opening up, but things are not back to normal. It's very different up here in that everywhere you go, you have to show your vaccine card. And we have limited capacity as to how many people are allowed in a place, a restaurant, or anywhere for that matter. One of the coolest things, though, have you been to New York, first of all? I got to ask you.
No, I haven't.
So, you know, New York City's got tons of restaurants. Well, you can imagine when they shut it down, all of a sudden places were going to start to go out of business. So what they allowed us to do in New York, those restaurants were allowed to build outside areas into the street, into where the traffic is. Yeah, like the traffic lanes. And so now it is hell having a car in New York. It's never great. Now it's crazy. But one of the coolest things is like you can dine out everywhere. And in the winter, what they did last winter is they put heat lamps in all the outside areas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I never experienced, like, I guess it's kind of like when you go to a ski resort, right? And you eat lunch outside in the snow and they have those heat lamps. That's what they did. And you were actually able to sit outside and eat. So it was great. It was really, really great. But for me, being like an actress, a model, a host, I make documentary films, everything for me stopped March 12th. And it was crazy. And my job is this. I don't have another job. You know, all of us who are entertainers, this is our job. That's what we do. And all of a sudden to be told, hey, you're not going to be able to do what you love and how you put smiles on people's faces. That's it. It's over. That was March 12th of 2020. March 13th, I was standing in the kitchen with my husband and I said, what are we going to do? And he's a cinematographer on our documentary films. And I looked at him, I said, we're going to do a cooking show from this kitchen. I have a great, even though it's a small New York kitchen, it's very kitschy. It's bright yellow and strawberry wallpaper and strawberry knobs on everything. I said, we're going to do a show right from here. And I named it Pandemic Cooking with Wendy. Well, there were a couple of things not quite right about trying to do this show. I cannot cook to save my life, first of all. And being a New Yorker, you know, most of us, like, our lives are so hectic. Less so now since the pandemic because lots of people work at home. But before that, you know, you do your job or you do your auditions, you do your bookings, you would do a gig at night, you'd meet your friends. You just weren't home, right? So you would order in when you were home, all right? Any restaurant. I don't want to make you jealous, but we have restaurants to deliver. So I come up with this idea for a cooking show. And all right, how am I going to do this? So I call Fresh Direct. Do you have a Fresh Direct is that something, a chain that's in Kentucky?
We don't have, no, not Fresh Direct.
Okay, so I'm sure you have something comparable. Fresh Direct is a place where you just order all your groceries online and they will deliver. Well, they also have what they call these ready-made meals. So it's like the whole meal comes not cooked, but it's in a box. And in the box is a recipe. So great. And all you have to do is like just really follow the instructions and cook the stuff. So my first meal that I made on Pandemic Cooking with Wendy was a meal from Fresh Direct. It was called spatchcock chicken. I had never heard of this. It was the weirdest looking chicken you've ever seen. It was kind of like that. It was like blade. And there were these hard little things I thought were potatoes with it. And then there were carrots. And I followed, you know, the exact directions. And then I put my camera on. My husband started shooting it. And I, you know, read all the ingredients and I showed my audience the ingredients. Then I shut the camera off to do most of the cooking part. Because you know what? People don't want to wait 40 minutes till something cooks. But I talked about, I showed what I did in the pan, showed myself putting it in the oven and everything. And then in the end of 40 minutes, I took it out and there was my spatchcock chicken. By the way, I'm sure you don't know. Nobody knows this. I have since learned. It's called a spatchcock chicken because it's actually split down the middle. So it's kind of like the way you see when the chickens come all packaged up like this. So that's what it is. So I take my meal out of the oven and this was before I started doing costumes. I was just like a normal person like you. And I just talked about everything I did. And then I go to show those potatoes, and they were really hard. And I had kept them in there for the right amount of time. And then I went to bite into one. I almost broke a tooth.
Oh, wow.
One of my friends that was watching said to me, Wendy, I don't think those are potatoes at all. They were chestnuts. They were chestnuts that went with the spatchcock chicken. Well, this makes sense, right? That's why they were so hard. So anyway, I didn't break a tooth. Everybody told me that I had the wrong ingredient that I was describing. And so it went. That was my very first Pandemic Cooking with Wendy. And then it occurred to me, this show is a wonderful opportunity as a performer to use all my skills, which are, you know, the wigs, the costumes, everything that you do when you're an actor. So I started theming my shows. Like, one of them, we go to India and we make Indian food. And I have been to India. You know, I've traveled a lot. I had a great traditional Indian costume and I had a black wig. And then I did like really dark around my eyes. And I put a bindi in the middle of my forehead, although my daughter told me that was politically correct. She's a millennial. They're very sensitive to things. But, you know, everyone got, I was doing a character. And I did, it was like a tandoori chicken with a saffron rice dish. And it came out so great. And you know what? It was a little exotic, a little different. So then I decided I could go anywhere in the world with Pandemic Cooking without ever leaving my house. So I came up with this character, Pandemic Pam, the flight attendant. And I had this flight attendant outfit. And what do you serve on Pandemic Airlines but airplane food? So I got little plastic containers that I covered on top with tinfoil. And I made things like, what would you get in Coach on an airplane? Well, you know, you might get a little fish dish. You might get like a chicken and vegetables. You would definitely get mac and cheese.
Yeah.
I served that up on my flight. My flight really never went anywhere because the plane never left the ground. But boy, were those passengers out of control. I had to tell you, I had passengers handcuffed to the seats, passengers smoking in my bathroom. I created every situation you could possibly have with people that could go wrong on a flight. So why did I do this? Because you know what? Even though it was an actual cooking show and we did make things and I always gave the ingredients, it was really a comedy show because I'm a performer and I'm a comedian. And that's what I do. I make people laugh. And unfortunately, New York you guys didn't get hit in Kentucky the way we got hit in New York. We were the first place to hit this climbing curve. And they never really explained to you what that was. What they didn't tell you, and I live right in the heart of New York, was that you would hear ambulances day and night. And that many people you know, including myself, would get this terrible virus. And I got sick 1 week after I started Pandemic Cooking with Wendy. But did I let that stop me? No. Because my fever wasn't that high. And I was still breathing. And it was a perfect opportunity to how to isolate in. Well, a perfect place to isolate is in your very own kitchen. And I kept doing episode after episode after episode. Sometime I was a fantasy character. You know, Halloween, I did a fairy character, and I had a magic wand and fairy wings and all of that. So I started that show really, and it took me a while to realize it. It was to help other people. And I'm sure you're wondering, how did it help other people? There were so many people that started signing on that were now in various parts of the country that were getting this virus, and it made them feel good and it made them happy when they would turn on the show. Every now and then somebody would say, this is a pandemic. There's nothing funny about it. And I wasn't making fun of the pandemic. I was showing the absurdity. Think about this, that, you know, in our country alone, over 600,000 people would get this virus. How could that be? I never grew up with those expectations of anything like that ever happening. You certainly never did. Right. You know, we would hear, like, in places like Africa where I've worked, there have been malaria outbreaks, there have been Ebola outbreaks. So you know about this stuff. But this is stuff that kind of happens over there. And they're within an amount of time, right? They're able to contain it. Suddenly, here we are, and all of us, you and me, we're in a science fiction film that we had no control over. And the best way, like somebody once said this to me, comedians are really brilliant at doing one thing. They take a tragedy or a very sad situation and they make it into something funny. Because, and I know you're going to get this, if we can't laugh at the things that go wrong in our life, right? What can we laugh at? If you can't take and turn them around, what can you do? So that was my response to being in a pandemic. And the amount of fans, of course, the fan base that I built on my YouTube channel, which is Wendy Stuart TV, it was unbelievable. The amount of people that signed on for this show, and they loved it. Because everyone said the same thing. I was feeling really down today. What's going on in the world makes me sad, but you made me laugh. Every now and then I would get someone that would say, you know, I don't think you should be doing this or whatever. So there were some people that said you can't cook. No kidding. That. But you know what? The recipes, anyone who's watching, you can find Pandemic Cooking with Wendy on my YouTube channel, Wendy Stuart TV. And you can go on there, and I stand behind every single recipe that I did. And I had a blast doing it, 115 episodes, and we're about to start up to move forward with it. And have the episodes, yeah, and continue on with it. I just got so busy. Let's see, New York really kind of opened up this June. But before that, I had Pandemic Cooking with Wendy. And then after I got over having COVID, as a model, a lot of models didn't want to take modeling jobs. People didn't want to go out of their house. They were afraid of getting sick. And I figured once I had COVID, I had nothing to lose. So I started working with modeling clients again. But you would go on sets and it was just so weird. Like the makeup artist would have on a mask and then a visor over that. And I would have on a mask and a visor. And then they would lift everything up to put the makeup on. And it was so crazy because no one knew how to behave or what to do. And, you know, if you were shooting an ad or something, anyone involved with it, from the people that would help style with the clothes, they would spray the clothes with disinfectant, you know, yeah, it's like, this is all the crazy stuff that we went through in the beginning. So, starting around December, restaurants started going out of business in New York. And I was thinking there's got to be a way to bring attention to these restaurants that are just hanging on and entertain people at the same time. So I came up around that time with a live stream that is on every Wednesday at 2:00. And we broadcast live from a wonderful cabaret restaurant in Manhattan on the Lower East Side called Pangea. And the coolest thing about Pangea is they have hosted some of the most famous people in rock and roll, from Deborah Harry to cabaret artists to just very avant-garde performances. And they had put up a GoFundMe. And at that point, we still weren't open up inside in New York. I'm going back to like, December and January. So I thought, even though they were able to serve food outside, it was getting colder. And I thought, you know what? The restaurant's empty on the inside. They've got a great inside in the restaurant. What a perfect place to live stream a show. Because like you, I could bring people on from anywhere in the country. Like you're in Kentucky and I'm in New York, right? We don't have to worry about flying people in or any of those budgets anymore.
Yeah.
It was such a great thing. So I was able to bring on rock and roll people from, I am not kidding you, everywhere. Scott Page from Pink Floyd, world-renowned bass guitarist Leland Sklar. I've had on major writers like Michael Musto. Anybody that you've heard of in the entertainment world, performers, people that had articles written, just anyone that's got any kind of notoriety. And again, the beauty of it is, it's the beauty of the live stream. And that show called If These Walls Could Talk, because where we were broadcasting from, right? A place like that, oh, it's had seen parties. My gosh, it's had seen everything. So if those walls could talk, they certainly would. And my favorite thing about that show is I love to bring on very famous people, but I don't, anyone can talk about somebody's fame. I like to talk about who they are, right? As people, what makes a person tick? Hey, how you used to being a touring lead singer in a big rock group. Well, now we're in a pandemic and you've had $500,000 worth of tours canceled. Right. These are the things no one thinks about. How are you doing? What are you doing to get through this? And that's what was so interesting to me, the different things that celebrities discovered about themselves through these times. I mean, I interviewed Diane Lewis. I had never heard of, but she's actually quite famous. Not only is she a well-known rock singer, but she, that song, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, that was written about her. In Sergeant Pepper film, she was Lucy. Now, what are the chances of me, first of all, ever meeting this person in my entire life, and then getting to interview somebody that was like rock and roll legacy? She was an incredible interview. I mean, the things she told us about, making that film with rock and roll stars, and that she was the original Lucy in the Sky. And, what she was doing to get through the pandemic. I tell you, those are the things, right, that bring us all together. What could be better? And then, of course, like last July, this other show. So Pandemic Cooking with Wendy. We have that. Then we have If These Walls Could Talk, again on my YouTube channel, but streams live. Please tune in. That's every Wednesday at 2:00. And that is on Wendy Stuart TV on YouTube or on my co-host's Facebook channel. My brilliant co-host is the actor Tim Moss, who I love and adore. He's so much fun to work with. We have the same warped sense of humor. And then about a year ago in July, I work with an LGBTQ that I helped start in the tri-state area that mostly services upstate. And it's called Triversity. We came up with a show called Triversity Talk, which we are going to change to Diversity Talk because it is, with the following we have now, it is nationwide. And I want to use the word diversity. We are all diverse. And that is something we need to embrace and address. And it is a show that addresses topics that are specific to the LGBTQ community. And I've had amazing guests on that show, from trans activists to Flavio Alves, who did an incredible film, award-winning. He's a TED Talk person. He did a gorgeous film. It's called The Garden Left Behind. And I've had actors, Ike Avelli, the gay comedian, who is probably one of the funniest people that I've ever met. Evan Lawrence, brilliant designer. So that's another way I've been able to reach out once again and meet people that I would have never met if none of this have happened. So it's great to be here with you today.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Wow.
I've never been to the Kentucky Derby, so how would I know you were right around the corner from it?
Yeah, like walking distance. Wow. That's a lot. You've interviewed quite a few people.
It's a lot. And again, all of these shows, yeah, I have to tell you, so I don't know if you do this, but I keep, electronic lists. And so I don't always have to go back to YouTube and see, because sometimes you never know how it's going to line up on YouTube. Even if you do like the whole channel thing and you do it by date and all of that, for some reason or another, half the time I go on and then there's other people's stuff in there. I don't quite know how that works. So what I've done is I keep a list of not only all of my shows, but every show I've been on. If you were to guess how many shows between my shows and how many shows I've been on since March of 2020, take a rough guess how many that would be.
2,000?
Well, you're good. And bless you for saying that. It's like 600.
Really?
That's like doing like 2 a day in 2 years. I'm like, whoa, how did that happen? And now what's so crazy is I have been getting like live work in clubs. And one of the things I learned about myself, a lot of my friends do what we call variety shows. There's like a drag act, there's a singer, there's somebody that does comedy. I do all of it. And I never had a singing lesson in my life, and I'm not letting that stop me. I write really funny parodies. And a lot of the parodies I've been performing, of course, have to do with the pandemic. What could be better? Like vaccine, 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 vaccine. I'm begging of you, please give me a shot. Vaccine, 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 vaccine. How many doses do you think you got? So that's the kind of songs that I write. I take a song that you may have heard of and I put my own goofy words to it. And again, once again, it's entertaining. And what's so cool now, because things have opened up somewhat here, I get to do it live. I have learned how to use Zoom. I've learned how to use StreamYard. Any way that you can stream, I now know how to do, for a person that couldn't do anything till all this happened. But you do what you got to do, right?
Exactly.
Like, I'm sure you had to reinvent yourself. You had to come up with a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep, that's true. And I've interviewed over 200 people so far. So,
right. Yeah. And when did you start your podcast?
The end of last year, like mid last year.
Right. And you've interviewed over 200 people. Now,
oh, yeah.
Do you think if the pandemic hadn't happened, do you think you would have ever started a podcast?
Probably not. No.
Probably not. No. So what this did for many of us, it got us way out of like our comfort zone, whatever your comfort zone may be. And it really, all of a sudden, the world became a lot smaller for all of us. Oh, yeah. I interviewed, do you know Epic Kate? Have you met Epic Kate yet?
Not yet. I think I got them scheduled on my podcast. I think.
The thing I loved about Epic Kate, she's in an island off of Sweden with two of the most beautiful kids you've ever seen, because they come on screen. And to meet somebody like that, whose life is so drastically different than mine, right? She lives in an island off of Sweden. And yet, like, here we are, right? We're all on the screen together, finding out all the things that we have in common. That is like the coolest thing in the world to me, How cool to be able to do that. We can travel the world now without me ever leaving this chair right here.
True. Like, I've interviewed people from Australia, and I was like, wow. Like, yeah, from Australia, UK, just everywhere.
Right. But take a look at that. And what's one of the most interesting things you found out about one of your guests from a different culture?
I don't know. Like, it's a different lifestyle over there compared to here. Yeah, it's way different.
Yeah, what I find about Europe, I feel it's definitely a lot more laid back than here. Mm-hmm. Although now here, with so many people working at home, my daughter included, she's going to kill me for this. It seems much more laid back than than it was, you know. Even like last night, I got home from an talk about epic. I was in an epic event last night. My wonderful PR people, World Star Media, Eileen Shapiro and Jimmy Starr, work with an incredible producer, performer, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. His name's Soho Johnny. And this was so amazing. We haven't had like a big New York rock performance and party red carpet in New York now in 2 years. Well, guess what? Because that's not happening anywhere now. They shut it all down. This because things are somewhat open up. Soho Johnny was the first person to do an event to honor 9/11. Yesterday was 9/11, and portion of the proceeds go to the Let Me Help Foundation, which is Soho Johnny's foundation, and to Operation Warrior Shield, which gets veterans dogs that are going to be their companions. So, right. And we did that yesterday, and that was last night. So the red carpet was so incredible. It was from 5 to 7, and so many up and coming wonderful singers, musicians, and then of course legendary people like Felipe Rose from the Village People, YMCA, you know, that. My gosh, Soho Johnny performed. We had We Are Family. Yeah. We had Kim Sledge from can you imagine, from Sister Sledge?
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I mean, this was like, she's been on this earth for a bit. Let me tell you, this was like someone that was 20 years old. But first of all, girlfriend can sing like nobody's business. All right. She just popped up in front of the audience and belted that song out, and another one that she dedicated to 9/11. But it was so amazing. Her whole sensibility, her energy, which is why I say to myself, great performers, you know what? They never lose their mojo. She was unbelievable. We had so many people. This was really a star-studded event to honor 9/11 and raise money, which we did. And oh my God, the show. It was performer after performer. And I got to tell you, I came home from that and I said to my husband, anyone that's considering a singing career, I don't know how they would even consider anything, because every person up there, I don't care whether you were from decades ago or brand new, all fabulous. Every single one of them. And just one after the next after the next. And the entertainment level, a 4.5-hour show. And the co-producer was this guy. You got to have him on your show. His name is Charlie Z, and he goes under the name Drumageddon. I had him on If These Walls Could Talk last week. I'm like, what the heck is Drumageddon? Drumageddon was, I know, right? You're laughing. It sounds like Armageddon. So Drumageddon, he's a drummer, and he's what they call a session drummer. So that means he plays with lots of different groups and stuff. But he got the name Drumageddon because he rented an empty building in Brooklyn and performed an 8-hour drum set in various rooms throughout the building, which meant, imagine this. I know, right? Running from room to room, and he had the drum set up in every room. He calls himself a cyborg DJ because he often drums while he plays like electronic dance music. Okay, you know what? You got to see this to believe it. Wow. I have to tell you, I had him on my show on Wednesday, and I love always playing a video of the person and of a song he did, which was great. But, you know, the video was edited and all that. Last night, Charlie Z, I kid you not, they did the sound check they started the sound check at probably right around the red carpet. At 5 o'clock, Charlie Z did the sound check. And by 7 o'clock, the show had started right on time. Man, he drummed until like way after 11. And he never left the stage. He never, right. And it didn't matter who the performer was. All right. Whether it was April Rose Gabrielli, who's brilliant. She's another one you should have. I love her music. You know, newcomer, incredible. Whether it was her or Kim Sledge, it did not matter. He drummed to every single person there. And of course, the drumming was different for everybody, and he never left that stage. I'm like, when does this guy sleep? So it's such an amazing event that we were lucky enough to all be invited to last night. It was really, really good. I haven't been to anything like that cool. So I know you know that I wrote a book, and it's called She's the Last Model Standing. And one of the main chapters in that book is I'm one of the original people from Studio 54. So I'm going to tell you something. Last night was the closest thing I've been to, especially with this pandemic. There was like a Studio 54 night. You know, everybody was mixing with everybody else. It didn't matter if you were a big celebrity or if you were somebody that just bought a ticket, right, to support, you know, the reason we were raising money to honor 9/11 and the families that were affected by it as well. None of it mattered. All that mattered was we were all there together having a great time. And when I came to New York after I graduated from college, I had heard about this incredible place called Studio 54. And I wrote about it. Of course, there's a whole chapter in my book, which you can get on Amazon. She's the Last Model Standing, and it's on Amazon. But I was like a kid from the Bronx, and I didn't really know how to dress well. I was 21 years of age, and I don't know if you were like this, but nothing was quite together at that age.
Right.
It just wasn't together. And I would go, the thing about Studio 54 that's legendary, there was a velvet rope, and there was a guy named Mark that got to choose everybody that came in. And people would stand behind this red velvet rope and go, Mark, 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 can I come in? Come in. And, you know, of course he would go, he'd pick this one, that one. Well, I was never picked. Well, what I started to do was look at how people were dressing. Not the celebrities, they always got in. Not the socialites, they always got in. But how are the people that were like me dressed? Okay, Wendy, you need to step up your game. Your outfit needs to be a little bit more unique. So I came up with this crazy idea to wear ballet outfits. Don't even ask me why that way. I'm not a ballet dancer. I never had a ballet lesson in my life. And I thought, that's what I'll do. I bought like a ballet tutus and ballet slippers. And at the time, if you remember, this would be a movie classic for you. It was called Flashdance.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Right. What a feeling. If you remember that movie and you remember how Jennifer Beals was with her flat little ballet shoes and her leg warmers and her leotard top and little skirt, that was me. And put my hair in a ponytail. And I didn't have to yell Mark anymore because I got let in. And, you know, and then, of course, the costumes got more and more outlandish, and I got let in. And, you know, while we're sitting here talking, I'm thinking, that's kind of like what I did in pandemic cooking. See, I've never changed. I guess that's the point of this conversation. I'm still the same person I was when I was 21 years old and came to New York, right? So one night I'm at Studio 54, and I'm in my little ballet outfit, and I'm with all my friends thinking how cool we are up in the balcony. And they announced this singer of that night, and I'm not going to tell you who it is yet. And she comes out, and I say to all my friends, oh my God, she's so tired. She's like a pop princess, and I really can't even stand to listen to her music. It's very boring. And I said, I can't believe they're having somebody like that here. She's not going anywhere. Well, the song was Borderline, and the person was Madonna.
Wow.
Right. Wow. And yes, how wrong I was. And I eat it up every day. And the rest is history, because I'm a huge Madonna fan. I actually really started loving her music when she came out with Ray of Light. And let's face it, whether you love Madonna or hate her, she paved the way for everybody else.
Yeah.
Nobody can deny that. So yeah, if you pick up my book, it's about my life coming to New York and everything that happened to me, going all the way into now, which is, you know, I'm still modeling, still acting. And of course, I've expanded everything that I do, because you got to be in it to win it. So I started like about 10 years ago making small documentary films with my husband, just like really short things in remote parts of the world. Because as you brought up earlier, when we talked a little bit, I'm very into conservation. and what's happening to the animals on this earth. And like many of your listeners, I was aware of what was happening to rhinos and elephants in Africa and how they were being poached. And I said, you know what? As a person that interviews people, I can go anywhere in the world and use this skill. And and I can tell stories, right? Because if you can interview, your storyteller as well. So I said to my husband, he's a really great shooter. And the first film that we did that was a longer short was called Fragile Beauty. We went to a remote part of Ethiopia. Have you ever traveled to Africa at all?
No, no, I haven't.
So I don't have to tell you, it's completely different than here. Totally different. The culture's different. And for me, it was even more different because I wanted to show the fashion and beauty of people that were tribal and lived that way 24/7. People that were very much into traditional religion, didn't follow modern religion, didn't use modern currency. They paid for things by trading a goat or a cow. You know, to have a cow is wealth. And it's so hard for us to wrap our head around this. But I think the most overriding story I wanted to show was how incredibly beautiful their fashion was. Now you think about fashion here, right? And you know, what is fashion here? Well, it's what we buy in the stores. It's what we read about in magazines. It's what we see on our celebrities. We all love watching red carpets to see what celebrities wear. So imagine being in a very remote part of the world where the people not only look nothing like us, they don't dress what we call Western. Okay. Their bodies are completely painted. Their piercings are completely different than our piercings that we have here. For example, the Mersey people, and if you read National Geographic magazine, you'll see pictures of them there. From the time the women are born, they take and they pierce the lip and they keep making the hole bigger and bigger in the lip area. Why do they do that? So they can eventually put in like a 4-inch round plate. And I swear, I think I saw 5-inch round plates as well. And someone said to me, but why did they do this? Because that to them is the sign of beauty of the Mersey people. That's what makes a Mersey woman attractive. And that was completely fascinating to me because that's something here that, you know, we'll see pictures of them in National Geographic and we might judge them. More often than not, we'll judge them and we'll say, oh, that's really strange or weird, or why would anyone do that? But it's not that at all. That's their interpretation of beauty. And they were one of the groups of people that we did in the video called Fragile Beauty. The other people, the Caro people, were amazing. You know, you see here people, we call it inking or tattooing. What you see in these villages is nothing. What we have here is nothing compared to what you see there. They paint with clay on their bodies, like intricate geometric patterns all over their faces, all over their bodies. And then they often will take dried flowers or leaves or a ram's horn and weave it into a beautiful headpiece. And they will wear that. Okay. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. And somebody said to me, well, aren't they just dressing up in costume for you? No costume for me. We did not go there as tourists, although people can. If you're willing to pay the right amount of money, you can. But they look like that all the time. And that was something that we tried to show in our film, that this is what their culture is. And in order to shoot this kind of film, there were a couple of things that had to happen. I had to be fearless and not like care what anyone thought, how weird looking I was to them. And believe me, I know they probably, the women would like laugh and I would laugh with them and then we'd all be laughing together. But they were speaking their own language. I had no idea what they were saying, but I know they were probably laughing. If they would point to my ears and my clip-on earrings, when some of them actually had amazing gold pieces in their ears, but the holes were enormous holes.
Real big.
the
Yeah.
gauges. We've seen them, we've seen them here too. But
Mhm.
that is how they are all the time. They had gauges. The Mercy people would, with the clay plates and everything. I was the funniest thing on the face of the earth. And for whatever reason, when I would laugh, everybody would laugh. But here again, there you go, using your comedy. What did I
Mhm.
learn? I learned I want to make a film about these people. So there were a couple of things I had to do. I had to bridge that foreign thing. Look at me. I'm foreign, right? I'm blonde. I'm white. I'm weird looking. And I'm coming to your village and I want to
Mhm.
make a film. That's not going to fly. That's when you hear about bad things happening to people that go to these places and think they're going to exploit the local people taking pictures. What I arranged ahead of time, I have a guy out of Florida he's a very cool guy, and his company is called World Class Travel. He knows how to get people into places that want to make these kinds of films. And he got me a local person out of Addis Ababa, the city in Ethiopia. And Jera was his name. Jera had traveled to the tribal territories a lot, and he had the language. All right, so I had someone that kind of knew how to talk to the people. Then I needed, you don't just go there and take pictures. I had to work out a deal, right? Like if you're shooting a film in the United States, your actors should get paid. All right, we all know people shoot films where actors will just do it for the sense of doing it. But you know what? Do the right thing. Pay your actors. All right. And in this sense, my actors were going to be the people that were living there, or my models, right? And who else do you pay? Well, you're going into a village. You got to take care of the chief of the village, and the chief divvies up that money to make sure things run smoothly in the village. I set that up all ahead of time. So by the time, yeah, it was really cool. By the time we got down there, and I was told by people that have traveled to those places, you're not going to be able to shoot anything. And I thought, you just wait. And my husband's really cool. For as I stick out like a sore thumb, he wears black all the time. He's just the kind of, people that are kind of invisible that you just don't notice.
Yeah.
I stick out. If I robbed a bank, you would find me. He could rob a bank and you wouldn't see him. And that really works well for us because we didn't come in like gangbusters. We get to the villages. We don't take our cameras out right away. What I've learned is, the ladies wanted me to sit down with them, and they want to look at my earrings and look at my hair, and they wanted to touch. They touched me, I touched them, I touched their gold pieces. The ones with the clay plates in their mouth, they flipped them out and gave them to me. Right, I know. And I touched them, and then they go like this, and I'm like, no, there was no way for me to put that in my mouth, right? Because my lips don't have that hole. And they thought that was like the funniest thing. And I would hold the plate up and they would laugh. And then they would bring their babies over to show me the babies or the little children. And you know what? Mothers all over the world, I don't care where you are, a mother is a mother is a mother. We're all the same. Doesn't matter what differences we have in terms of our customs. We're the same. And the kids that weren't afraid of me would climb all over me. And the mothers would laugh some more. And then we would point to the cameras and ask someone, very low key, they totally got it. That's the thing I can't emphasize enough. We didn't speak the language. We had a translator just to kind of smooth things out. But the fact of the matter is, we can engage each other in our eyes, when our eyes lock and when our smile locks, and we engage. Any of us can do that anywhere in the world. And that is a universal language. And that's how we did it. So that first film, Fragile Beauty, which was supposed to be about going into these villages and telling the stories of the fashion and the beauty. Yeah, it started out that way, but here's what happens. I still am from the West. I still have my own notions. So here I am, bourgeois Wendy is going to make this film about these tribal people and fashion. I get to one of the villages, and my guide comes over and says, do you have any malaria pills? And I'm like, yeah, I have them, but they're for me. You had to take malaria pills every day. He said, there's a man here, and he says his daughter has malaria, and she's dying. I'm like, dying? I'm like, who dies of malaria anymore?
Yeah.
Well, people die of malaria. That's what. And here I was. And I couldn't do anything, or so I thought, but I said, "Where is the closest clinic?" And my guide said, "The clinic is 2 miles from here." Okay, we're 2 miles from a clinic. Why is this child dying from malaria? The father can't take her to the clinic because he has no way to pay for the malaria drugs. I mean, can you believe this? Do you believe that children are dying for this? So now I don't care about shooting this film about body painting or how anyone's dressed. Now it's about a kid dying. So I said to him, "Tell the father we will get the malaria medicine. Come bring the child into our Jeep." Well, first of all, now the guy doesn't want to get into the Jeep with the foreigners. I totally get it. Okay. He also doesn't have money to pay for the medicine, and he doesn't want to take charity from the foreigners. But here's something I remembered. I lived in Nigeria. One of the things you do, and this is for any culture, you can give a gift. You can offer a gift. So I had my guide say, "My gift is going to be the malaria medicine. Please, would he come with us?" And he got in the Jeep with the daughter. We got to the clinic. And so I get out, and there's a nurse there. And this is what really bothered me. She was a local woman, but trained as a nurse. And she looked at him like he was lower than low, because this is what's happening in the world. Because, you have the developed part of the world, and then you have parts of the world that are not developed. And we have that big gap where people are looked down upon. So there I was, the foreigner, the go-between. So I asked, "How much is the malaria medicine? I want this child treated." $10. $10 was what it cost to treat a kid. I could have treated 20 kids or more if I had known. And so would a lot of other people. People just don't know this. So I would say what is pivotal in the film Fragile Beauty, and what ended up being the message, is this is going on in the world, folks. We need it to open our eyes. We need to all try and make a difference. And that was the first film that I exposed to an amazing organization called the Explorers Club, and ended up becoming a member with my husband, Alan Kaplan. What is so unique about that club, there's 3,400 members in the world, but the people in that club are the people that are developing the water projects to bring clean water into places where they have none, to bring alternate methods of farming to places that need help with that. What I've learned in the developing world, the people are smart. They just need to get people from other countries to give them the tools. This is all about tools at the end of the day. So I have learned so much, and that's what I'm trying to share here too with you today. We all have to open our eyes. One thing that the internet has done you can go on anytime and get information about anything. And as a person, every one of us out there can make a difference some way, even if it's a $5 donation to a reputable organization that's trying to stop the killing of elephants and rhinos for their horn. This is something that's going on out there. We all have the power to do something. And certainly those of us doing this podcasting, my God, look, we were getting it out. It's so cool. We're getting it out everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. I want to thank you so much, Wendy, for coming on my podcast.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. This is so great. Now you have to let me know when this is going to air.
Oh, we're live right now.
Okay. And I can send this link. I can send this link out to people, right?
Yes, you can. Yep.
Fantastic. I will totally do that. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. You have a great day.
Okay, you too now. Bye-bye.
Hey, everyone. I want to thank you all so much for listening to my interview with Wendy. She is such a kind soul. I absolutely love this conversation with her. She is so sweet. If you want to get involved with any of her donations she was speaking of, you can go to her website. It's wendystuarttv.com. She has everything on her website. I've already been on there. She has her visual journeys, her stories, her author, actress, host, model, everything. Her contact, everything. So if you want to get involved, please do so. Like she said, donate to help others. It helps people. It really does. I gave my last $10 to the hurricane relief fund. So yes, please donate. If you would like to donate to this podcast, the donations will go towards new equipment for me, as well as to the foundations that I support, which is the Bullying Project, the Deskovic Foundation, the Freedom Fighters Foundation, and the Suicide Prevention Foundation. I want to thank you all so much for supporting my podcast and for listening. And I hope you all have a great day and make great choices. Bye.